Good evening and welcome to JJ Winn's here in Holiday City. What a turnout for a late January night, and I'm not even going to waste any more time because they're all here for you, and you being Jim Rosenhaus, one of the voices of the Cleveland Guardians.
Thank you for your patience. I had another event over in Findlay and got here as quick as I could, but if you have to be anywhere waiting around, this is a good spot.
Absolutely. Today was the Rosenhaus caravan, right?
Yeah. I had Bobby D with us over in Findlay, but he had to get back home, and so I'm flying solo here and happy to do it.
We're happy to have you. And we have a great room here tonight. A ton of Guardians fans are here, baseball fans, and of course mostly Guardians fans. And as good a place to start, Jim, is let's recap the 2025 Cleveland Guardians season. From your perspective, team perspective, talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on the season.
If we are in this conversation in early July, it wouldn't be good.
No.
Things were a struggle for sure, and I think it was July 6th, they had lost to the Tigers to run a losing streak to 10. And they were 15 and a half games behind Detroit, and it did not look good. They were 8 games under 500. So usually that's time where you start thinking about, hey, what young guys are they going to call up and start playing for next year and all that kind of stuff. But they went on a real good run, just kept winning, had a little hiccup at the start of September. It looked like maybe that was the last straw, but then went 19-4 down the stretch and made Major League history for the largest gap overcome to win a division of 15 and a half games. And that was pretty neat. It was really fun.
Jim, was there a point in time, a game, a weekend, a series that you could kind of see the turnaround happening?
For the longest time, it was just, well, this is nice. They're playing good baseball to finish the season, and so that'll look good for 2026. But they went into Detroit with about 2 weeks to go in the season and swept the Tigers, and that's when you thought, man, they could really make something happen here. You need some help. The Tigers had a real tough stretch down the stretch, and that helped. But Cleveland played really good baseball, and I think when they swept the Tigers in Detroit, you thought maybe they could pull it off.
How much of it was Stephen Vogt? How much of it was players? A good mix of all of that? I heard an interesting interview on MLB Network with Stephen Vogt, and they were asking him about this, about how just his style and his ease with the team and comfort level and buy-in meant a lot to that turnaround.
Well, he never let them give up. He never let them feel sorry for themselves. The team had some challenges last year. They lost 2 pitchers, unusual circumstances, and I think that would have hurt a lot of teams, especially losing someone like Emmanuel Clase, the best closer in baseball. But he wouldn't let the team feel sorry for itself. So Stephen Vogt for sure. Austin Hedges was another one. When you talk to other players, another one who said, hey, let's just play it one. Here comes the cliche, one game at a time. But they did, and they didn't let anything bother them down the stretch, even if they lost a couple. And I think between Stephen Vogt, Austin Hedges, and of course Jose Ramirez, there were enough guys in that clubhouse that wouldn't let the season get away.
Talk a little bit about that, too. I'm glad we brought that up early. I want to know from your perspective, the team perspective, and how they handled the gambling investigation and situation and suspension. How did that play in the clubhouse? What were the reactions of players as that's unfolding?
It was bad from the standpoint of they didn't know what to think, because I think initially there might have been a thought that, hey, maybe it was a misunderstanding or something else. And again, their trial is not till May, but certainly there's a lot of evidence pointing toward they were influencing games because of gambling. So it was hard for the players because, that's your teammate that you're expecting to give a full effort and try and win at all costs, and apparently that wasn't happening. For a while, about a month, their lockers were still in the home clubhouse, but I think once they cleared out their lockers after about a month, when it became apparent they weren't coming back, I think that helped. Just everyone moved forward. And honestly, talking to especially relief pitchers, they were just like, all right, we lost the guy. It's kind of like he got hurt, and we just move on. It's opportunities for other guys, and and they went with it.
I mean, that's something that obviously galvanized that clubhouse big time.
I think you could say that a little bit, which you wouldn't think, because they, like, production-wise, losing Class A is bad for trying to win games, but I think it did bring guys together a little bit, and it was helpful down the stretch.
By the way, middle table back there, if anybody has any questions, we're going to make Susie get up and move a little bit here. She has pens and papers. We can jot down questions. You can ask your own stuff to Jim as well. I've got notes, but I know there's maybe some deeper and more questions that you guys might have. Or we have a crowd mic if anybody wants. There you go. If anybody wants to jump on a mic and ask their own question as well, raise your hand, and Bob will run it over to you, our wonderful sound guy tonight. So off-season, let's talk about the Guardians off-season. I know we're about ready to make a big announcement. Everybody has probably seen and heard the reports by now with Jose and the new contract, Jose Ramirez. Talk about that, and then anything else that has happened so far with the Guardians.
Not the big splashy stuff that you've seen the Dodgers or some other teams do, but that's par for the course for the past several years. Cleveland has just continued to be diligent about development, kind of working the fringes a little bit and trying to add where they can. Not a whole lot outside of some relief help, some veteran arms for the bullpen, but outside of that, until this week when tomorrow it'll be officially announced that Jose Ramirez is signed through the 2032 season, which it will take him through his age 39 season. Which, for all intents and purposes, he will be a Cleveland player for life, for the life of his career. It's remarkable when you think about it. They signed him at the age of 16, and he will play just about to the age of 40 with one organization. And that's a credit to him. It's a credit to our front office, and also the fans of the team. He has talked about how often do you see a player grows up in an organization, has an outstanding career, and then when free agency comes, they go somewhere else, and it's just not the same. A case in point is his former teammate, and I from experience, it is not for Francisco Lindor with the Mets. He has played decent, but anytime he has had a tough stretch, it's been tough. The fans have been hard on him.
And different market.
And not that they were the closest of friends, but enough where Jose, I think, has recognized that. And I'm telling you, he appreciates how the fans have treated him his entire time here and how they appreciate what he's done for this team. And also he has a comfort level with the players and coaches that he's around. He knows that this team has always been in contention for a playoff spot, and if you can reach the postseason, you have a chance to go to the World Series. He did it early in his career back in 2016, so that's a part of it. It's nice to see a player recognize where he can be at his best and has been at his best, and the grass isn't always greener somewhere else, even though, you know, obviously financially it could mean a lot more for him, but he's comfortable with what he's getting, very appreciative of it, and ready to stay in Cleveland.
Production-wise, we all know that this is a great signing, and I think equally as huge for the organization is what he means to that clubhouse. Mm-hmm. I mean, they all he's the guy they look to. Absolutely, and they should. And he plays the game the way I think they hope everybody plays the game, and that matters. I just think it's awesome. By the time he's done, if he can not necessarily have his best seasons now. I mean, there's going to be some tail off at some point, but he's going to end up at the top of the franchise list of some really big categories, including home runs, RBIs. He's already at the top for total bases. He's probably not going to pass Kenny Lofton for stolen bases, but he might get close. So, I mean, you're looking at a statue and a number retired and all that kind of stuff. And that's important to him, all that stuff. He wants to do it in Cleveland, and that's pretty cool. I want to ask you about the AL Central. We talked about the comeback by the Guardians last year. Obviously, Detroit heavily in the mix this year. Kansas City, we anticipate being there as well. They didn't have a great year like the year before. Tell me your thoughts, I guess, Jim, as we get ready to peek ahead to the 2026 season and your overall thoughts on the AL Central. I think as
in terms of challengers for Cleveland, as long as the Tigers have Tarek Skubal, which right now they do. I know there's been a lot of back and forth about his contract status and where the future lies for him. I hope they keep him because it makes the rivalry better. And he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So I would say the Tigers would be the prime challenger. I think the Royals will have a nice bounce back season this year. They made some nice additions in the off season. And then it's hard to tell for Minnesota and Chicago where they'll be. I mean, I think just based on what happened a year ago, you wouldn't pick them to do much, but as we've seen over the years, sometimes teams come out of nowhere.
A new manager in Minnesota too, right. So that's
that makes a difference. Yeah.
Other things as we get ready for spring training, I guess. Talk a little bit about what's coming up here as we get ready for spring training.
Well, the truck leaves tomorrow, so all the gear will get out to Goodyear, hopefully in a couple of days. But that's always a great sign that, I don't know, I saw the forecast. It doesn't mean it's going to get any warmer. Usually when the truck leaves, it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
You point to that as a sign of spring. But pitchers and catchers a little bit earlier this year because of the World Baseball Classic. But February 10th is the first day that they have to be there. First workout is the 16th. And our first broadcast is the 21st of February, so it's coming.
I'm glad you brought up the World Baseball Classic. I'm a fan of it. I think that last time we did it, when we had USA and Japan, and you had Ohtani and Trout to end that game, first of all, any Guardians playing for any country? And then I guess where do you land on it? Where do the players overall, do you think, land on the World Baseball Classic?
I think the games are awesome. For position players, I think Bo Naylor's going to play for Team Canada. Hosey might play for the DR. It's not official yet, so I'm not sure if he's going to go. The organization worries about pitchers going, for sure. That's the key, because it's too early for them to be at their best. And then these games turn out to be, a sense of national pride, and guys are doing maybe a little bit more than they should. I think we saw, it was 17, when Andrew Miller went. And then that year he had kind of had some injury issues and things like that. So there'll be a couple of position players. I don't think many of the pitchers go. It's awesome. I had a chance. They had games in Arizona the last time, and myself and my family, we went to a Mexico-Canada game, and it was tremendous. I mean, the amount of fans from those countries, especially Mexico, that were there, made it a really fun time, and there were all-stars in the game for the respective countries, and of course, as you mentioned, Japan and Team USA had really good teams. So it's a lot of fun. I think the front offices hold their breath, especially if they have pitching there. But the players seem to enjoy it, and it's some national pride on the line, that type of stuff.
Just getting started here tonight. It's an evening with Jim Rosenhaus live at JJ Winn's here in Holiday City. I have a few things I want to get to as well. We want to talk about, I want to get your thoughts on the state of baseball. Unfortunately, I think we're staring at an impending lockout after this coming season. We've got a ton of listener and audience questions tonight as well. And we'll continue with more from JJ Winn's on our Night with Jim Rosenhaus when we come back.
Leasing is back at Bryan Ford on North Main Street in Bryan. And Bryan Ford has some amazing lease deals. It all starts with huge discounts, and Bryan Ford has them across the board. In fact, Bryan Ford is your Ford leasing headquarters. See them today. They're out to set a January sales record, and they will not be undersold. Bryan Ford has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they are your 7-time Ford President's Award-winning dealer. Leasing is back, and only at Bryan Ford, North Main Street in Bryan.
Looking for top quality meats and a sweet treat? Then head to Jacob's Top Quality Meats on State Route 66, just north of Defiance. From fresh hamburger and deli salads to premium cut steaks, they've got everything you need for your table. And just in time for Valentine's Day, don't miss their heart-shaped ribeye steaks. Then swing south on Route 66 by the school to Jacob's Sweets and Eats and try the Sunday of the month, the Bulldog Pride Sundae. Grab a sundae, pick up lunch or supper to go, and make it a delicious day. Jacob's Meats and Jacob's Sweets and Eats, worth the stop, north or south of Defiance. When it comes to new and used vehicles in the tri-state area, two names stand tall: Randy Shirkey and Lupe Cantu at Darrell Shirkey Ford in Montpelier.
Hi, I'm Randy Shirkey. We teamed up to give you the best deal, guaranteed. We've built our dealership around trust, selection, and treating customers like neighbors.
Hi, I'm Lupe Cantu, and whether you're looking for a brand new Ford or a dependable used car, truck, or SUV, we've got options for every driver and every budget. And even with less than perfect credit, we are here for you.
As one of the fastest growing Ford dealerships around, we're using that growth to help our neighbors. More inventory, better pricing, and a team you can trust.
That is correct. Being in the business over 30 years, we know what it takes to earn your business, and that is straight transparency.
Darrell Shirkey Ford, your hometown leaders in new and used Ford sales. Come see why the tri-state is talking.
Welcome back to JJ Winn's in Holiday City. Our night with Jim Rosenhaus is brought to you by Brian Ford, JJ Winn's, Jacobs Meats, and Darrell Shirkey Ford. Thanks, Toby, for being our sponsor of that from Darrell Shirkey. Questions. Let's dive into some audience questions as well. One is remodeling. Is the remodeling done at Progressive Field?
Almost. The last piece to the puzzle is converting all the seating to brand new blue seats, which most of the ballpark so far, but upper deck, left field, and right field lines were not completed. I don't know how these guys are doing it, but I was at the ballpark yesterday, and they're out trying to get it done in this stuff, and they have kind of like tarps to make it almost like they're inside, and they're blowing heaters under there, so these guys aren't working out in 12 degrees, but they will be done by opening day. That is the guarantee that they'll be done by opening day. So it'll be all brand new blue seating. The different party areas and stuff like that were completed for last year, and they were tremendous. So everything's coming together, and it looks like it'll be done by opening day.
Okay. I know there's been a couple of fringe moves, but the question is, why hasn't there been anyone signed like a bigger move in the offseason?
I know a lot of folks looking for the big right-handed bat, and it's interesting. I talked to the Tiger radio guy and the radio announcer from the Royals today. They're both looking for the same thing. And honestly, if you're not the Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs right now, there's about 17 or 18 teams that are all in the same boat trying to figure out who's left and who would help their team. And right now, Cleveland just has not identified someone that they feel comfortable with, and neither of those other teams. Doesn't mean they're done looking. There's still time before spring training. There's still time before the start of the season. So I think until the season begins, I usually leave it open to say, maybe they'll pick somebody up that would be helpful. But at least for right now, they just haven't been able to sign anybody.
And there are, it's January, 28th. There are bats, right and left-handed bats available. There's pitching still available. This is, eventually we're going to see this unravel and get some signings. And
in fairness, I know Chris Antonetti has gone on record as saying that they believe in their young talent that's ready to be contributors. The two names that pop up all the time are Chase DeLauder, who played in the postseason, and George Valera, who got the call up in September. And they truly believe that they can make an impact this year, and they're hoping that they can. The key for them is if they can stay healthy, which has been a challenge.
What was that like for a Chase DeLauder to make basically your debut in the postseason?
He said he didn't start the first game, so he wasn't really nervous, but he knew he was starting the second game. He ended up playing the first game, but when he knew he was starting the second game, that made him a little bit more nervous. I don't know if you remember, but so Chase DeLauder's a big prospect. Got called up for the postseason. His major league debut was in a postseason game, which I think has happened twice before in history. And he's playing center field. I think it was a noon or 1 o'clock start, so sun was an issue. First inning, first ball hit to him, right over his head, lost it in the sun. So my wife and younger son went to the game. We get home, we're talking about the game, and my younger son said, "Hey, I met Chase DeLauder's dad today." I'm like, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah, I'd gone to the bathroom, come out, and there's a guy with a DeLauder shirt on, with his number and his name on the back. And I asked him, where did you get that? Because he wasn't with the team all season. And he goes, well, I'm his dad. And he said, Dad, he was bad-mouthing his son for missing that fly ball, and the first ball hit to him. You wouldn't believe it. He ended up having a good series. He knocked out got his first major league hit out of the way and ended up playing well. But it's funny how, whether it's little league or big leagues, dads, they want their kids to do well. That's my Chase the Lauder story.
What can we expect from Gavin Williams as a potential ace in 2026?
He could be. He absolutely could be. And I think a great indication, he got the start in Game 1 of the postseason series with the Tigers. And I think a lot of people thought maybe that would go to Tanner Bybee because heading into the season, he certainly was considered the staff ace. But second half of the season, Gavin Williams was tremendous. Big, strong guy, big fastball, learning, made significant adjustments to complement, breaking ball and off-speed stuff. And he's got a good competitive streak in him. There's no reason he can't become an ace. It's going to be really interesting to see who the opening day starter is, because Stephen Vogt will have to make that decision between two really good pitchers in Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee.
Staying with pitching, will Cade Smith be the main closer this year?
Unless Emmanuel Clase beats the rap and they have him back, yes. And that's not happening. I mean, I seriously doubt if he'll pitch in the major leagues again, and I can't imagine he'd ever pitch for Cleveland again, talking about Clase. So, yes, Cade Smith is, he had some hiccups early on, after he took over that role on a full-time basis. Not too many, but down the stretch, a big reason why Cleveland was able to win the division. Cade Smith was every bit as effective as Clase had been, and he is chomping at the bit to be the full-time closer to start the year, so yes.
How close was Stephen Kwan to being traded at the deadline? You heard rumblings with L.A. How close did that deal or another deal happen?
I'd be the last guy that they would tell, and really, I think you heard rumblings, but it wasn't Cleveland shopping him. If another team calls, the front office in their due diligence is going to answer the phone call, and that's where the rumblings start. Look, it's a contract year, so they're trying to figure out the best route. Can they sign him long-term to an extension? They'd love to. Does the price and the value, what they think and what Stevens' representatives think, how do they make it happen? We've seen, not to keep bringing it up, but Jose Ramirez, someone asked in a prior visit, you think the agent's upset? Jose's agent is upset that he took less money to stay with Cleveland. It doesn't matter. The agent works for the player, not the other way around. Jose wanted to stay in Cleveland. He said, get a deal done. And that's what it may take for Stephen Kwan to stay. Hopefully he does. And hopefully they can work out a long-term deal.
Okay. What's the plan for second base? If Arias struggles early on, Rocchio takes the reins at short, is Juan Brito the guy?
Juan Brito is a name we've heard a lot about. Ton of injuries last year, so it was hard for him to make some headway in terms of his development. And the guy waiting in the wings that they're hoping moves quickly is the former top draft pick in the overall draft 2 years ago, Travis Bazzana. Probably, I guess, would start at Double-A, maybe. Depends on the spring that he has, but they're very high on him, and he's on the top 100 prospect lists of just about every organization. So they have some options, but let's see what happens. Both those guys made some nice strides last year, probably more so Rocchio than Arias, but I would be surprised if that wasn't the starting double play combo to start the year.
If anybody has questions, again, we kind of raise your hand. Susie will come around if we haven't gotten anything. I do want to dive in, though. I want to get your thoughts on the state of baseball, and I know that this is a multi-layered question. It really is. There are a lot of layers to this. We have an impending lockout at the end of 2026. We think that's probably going to happen. calls for a salary cap. We're also on the heels of the most watched World Series, and that includes, of course, Game 7 in 34 years. So you can say that the game overall is in a good place, and attendance is up and everything like that. So I said I know there's not a yes or no answer to this, but I want to get your overall thoughts on where we're heading and what might be coming after this stalemate comes to an end.
You know, it's interesting because everyone assumes there's going to be a lockout. I thought it was interesting, and maybe it's because of the things you mentioned about how popular this year's World Series was. Some of the rule changes in the game, just the pitch clock, and just some of the other things that have changed in the game have seemingly elevated interest and had fans really happy about it. And Commissioner Manfred was quoted as saying that he went on a radio show in New York maybe last month, a couple of months ago, and just said, look, don't assume that there's just going to be a lockout. We're talking, we're making progress, and he recognized how good the World Series was, and really the postseason in general, how many great games there were, ratings matter. So I don't think it's a done deal that there's going to be a lockout. Now they have to figure out, is there going to be a salary cap? How much do owners dig in to try and get one? Or the players absolutely are not going to agree to that without some sort of other concessions. And the other thing is, I think there's the teams that are making news in the offseason by giving a Kyle Tucker $60 million a year, the Dodgers. There's a disparity in who can play the game in the offseason and who can't. And there's more teams that can't than can, and that's a problem. So the owners are probably going to have to figure that out. Like, how are they getting along? And then how do they make the players get to a good place in terms of whether it's a salary cap or some other form of system that would work?
To play devil's advocate to that, salary cap, I've heard thoughts from some of the big market teams that you mentioned, LA, New York in particular, said that they're all right with a salary cap. Why aren't we talking more about a salary floor when the Marlins and the Pirates, and even to some extent, you can probably put Cleveland in there, Cincinnati, why are they not reinvesting in their baseball team a little bit more and spending more instead of ownership pocketing some of that money? So I think it's a fair question, a salary floor.
The floor definitely has to be a part of that. There's no question about that. So, I mean, that's where they have to get to. What those numbers are, I don't know. That's for them to figure out. But
I mean, you're right, though. There is an enormous disparity.
Yes. I think I saw the Marlins were at, I think, $69 million for total payroll last year, and the Dodgers were up over $400 million.
And when they pay,
so that's a problem.
Correct me when I'm wrong. Whether it's L.A. or New York or Chicago, when they pay the luxury tax and they get into those second, third, and fourth tiers, some of that money does get trickled back down to the smaller markets. Correct?
It does.
Yes.
But here's the other thing to remember: the Dodgers, in their TV contract alone, bring in $350 million every year. Cleveland's, especially with the challenges that the company that had aired their games and airs, I think, 9 others in baseball, their bankruptcy, Cleveland's TV deal brings in maybe 40 or 50 million. So that's where the disparity lies. And when people say, well, they're not reinvesting back in the team, it's like, well, they're not getting the revenues, nearly the revenues that these other teams are getting. And that's, I think, where the NFL, the NBA, they share their revenues a lot more than baseball is, because it's a national TV contract. There's not the local TV contracts. Because of the disparity in local TV contracts, that's why the Dodgers are able to do what they do, and why teams like Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Cleveland have to be more careful.
Maybe within that, there's some of your answers right there. If you can figure out a national TV deal, like use the NFL as an example, where they're not just using over-the-air TVs now or channels now, you're using streaming platforms as well. I mean, somewhere in there we can find, I think, a middle ground to distribute.
And that's why I think, everyone's assuming there's a lockout, and I think the commissioner is saying, hey, look, there's a lot of avenues we can go, and they are talking, which is good. And there'll probably be a lot of back and forth where it'll sound like, doom and gloom, but hopefully they keep talking and get to a good place.
What we did say, though, and I'm glad you mentioned more than just the World Series, because it was an incredible postseason all around, starting
Absolutely.
with those best-of-3 wild card. I like that. I wasn't sure I was going to like that. I like that more than just the one-game wild card.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
The Guardians and Tigers series was awesome.
Yeah.
Great series.
Do the players like those changes? Like, I'm going to use the speed of play, the pitch clock.
I think so.
We're adapted to it now.
I think for position players, they're not just standing in the outfield while a pitcher steps off 10 times, and just guys. Certain pitchers take their time, and it just bogs the game down. So yes, I think it has improved the quality of play, no question, and players do seem to enjoy it.
Okay. A night with Jim Rosenhaus. We're at JJ Winn's in Holiday City. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back and roll into our lengthy and last segment. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask Jim. You can grab a mic even, too, if you want. Bob's got a mic, and we can handle it that way as well. So come on back and join us. We're at JJ Winn's live tonight on B-Rock.
When it comes to new and used vehicles in the tri-state area, two names stand tall: Randy Shirkey and Lupe Cantu at Darrell Shirkey Ford in Montpelier.
Hi, I'm Randy Shirkey. We teamed up to give you the best deal, guaranteed. We've built our dealership around trust, selection, and treating customers like neighbors.
Hi, I'm Lupe Cantu, and whether you're looking for a brand new Ford or a dependable used car, truck, or SUV, we've got options for every driver and every budget. And even with less than perfect credit, we are here for you.
As one of the fastest growing Ford dealerships around, we're using that growth to help our neighbors. More inventory, better pricing, and a team you can trust.
That is correct. Being in the business over 30 years, we know what it takes to earn your business, and that is straight transparency.
Darrell Shirkey Ford, your hometown leaders in new and used Ford sales. Come see why the tri-state is talking. Looking for top quality meats and a sweet treat? Then head to Jacob's Top Quality Meats on State Route 66, just north of Defiance. From fresh hamburger and deli salads to premium cut steaks, they've got everything you need for your table. And just in time for Valentine's Day, don't miss their heart-shaped ribeye steaks. Then swing south on Route 66 by the school to Jacob's Sweets and Eats and try the Sunday of the month, the Bulldog Pride Sundae. Grab a sundae, pick up lunch or supper to go, and make it a delicious day. Jacob's Meats and Jacob's Sweets and Eats, worth the stop, north or south of Defiance.
Leasing is back at Bryan Ford on North Main Street in Bryan. And Bryan Ford has some amazing lease deals. It all starts with huge discounts, and Bryan Ford has them across the board. In fact, Bryan Ford is your Ford leasing headquarters. See them today. They're out to set a January sales record, and they will not be undersold. Bryan Ford has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they are your 7-time Ford President's Award-winning dealer. Leasing is back, and only at Bryan Ford, North Main Street in Bryan.
Just kind of talk a lot about finance, but you know what? I had some numbers.
Okay.
What we've done with very little.
All right, we're welcoming you back here to JJ Winn's in Holiday City. Happy to have you here with us on our evening with Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you tonight by Bryan Ford, JJ Winn's, Jacob's Meats, and Darrell Shirkey Ford, and Toby Shirkey, who's helped us out with that here tonight. We were talking in the break about numbers and kind of what Cleveland has done, I guess the best way to say it, making the most out of a little. Is that a good way to describe it?
I think so. And here's the key. We talk about the challenges, and I'm sure fans just get tired of hearing it, but Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, they never look at it as we're at such a disadvantage. This is how they have to play the game, and they're going to figure it out. And I think they look at it as a big-time challenge. And what has that meant? Since 2013, they've been to the postseason 8 times, which I think is pretty impressive. They have, in terms of regular season wins, the 3rd most regular season wins in baseball, behind only the Dodgers and the Yankees, since 2013. To me, they're ahead of a lot of high-dollar, high-market teams. So they don't look at, all right, so here's what we have to work with. How are we going to get it done? in terms of spending, and you mentioned owners pocketing, and I don't know, I'm not privy to what happens with money that they get from revenue sharing, but I do know this. One of the keys for Cleveland is they spend a ton of money in player development, and it matters. In their minor league system, technology, everything that you need in today's game to develop players better than other teams, and I think they've been very good at doing that, whether it's scouting to get the right players in the system or getting the most out of players, specifically pitching. And I think it's fair to say offensively it's lagged behind a little bit. They're still trying to find that formula that they have on the pitching side. But that's how they can compete. You mentioned Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, homegrown. The rotation at the end of the year, I want to say, was completely homegrown, drafted and developed. And that's the only way they can compete, and they're happy to do it that way. So I think it's pretty impressive when you look at that in terms of the amount of winning baseball that's happened here. There's only been 2 seasons since 2013 that they've had a losing record, and it wasn't by much.
And the way this formula started, you can even go back to Mark Shapiro and Russ Atkins. By the way, now in Toronto, running the show up there, and they're seeing the different end, because all of a sudden, we mentioned LA and New York, we didn't mention Toronto as players. They are players now, and this is a window that's opening up in Toronto, I think, for a few years now.
And you know, they're spending a little more money, which they can, but when Mark went up there, he said, I need to revamp the player development end of it, because that's the only way you can sustain winning. And that's what they've done here. Even with a lower major league payroll, they still spend the money in player development, and that's the only way you can sustain consistent winning, and that's what they've done.
One other area I think Cleveland has done real well in feathering, or what do I want to say, threading the needle. That's tough for me to say. Threading the needle is riding that line of becoming old in a hurry, where they are 30s, 32, 35, 37, and that's most of your roster. I think Cleveland's done a pretty good job of that.
Well, they've been the youngest roster in baseball for the past several years because they keep churning it. But I think in the post-PED era, there's been a little more emphasis on speed and defense, which normally is younger players. And in terms of where guys are contract-wise, they have to do well with their younger talent because except for Jose Ramirez, a lot of players, they get to that point where they can accept free agency, and they do because they might be able to get a bigger payday somewhere else. So you have to be good at producing good young talent to be effective under the current rules the way they are.
Who plays shortstop in September? That's a question.
Ooh, good one. I think Rocchio. I think Brian Rocchio by September is a starting shortstop.
Do you think Jace? I'm going to say that. Jace, Lavalette? All right, I want to make sure I said his name.
Oh, good one.
Can he make the team this year?
No.
How many years?
He was the first-round draft choice last year. Big power hitter from Texas A&M. Has not played a single inning of minor league baseball, so he would need to do that first. So, no.
Okay. I'm sure you still get asked this after all these years. A fan that misses Cleveland being called the Indians. You still get that.
Oh, yeah.
We're now, and that ship has sailed.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As Paul Dolan said, Bob Feller will never be a Cleveland Guardian. He will always be a Cleveland Indian. Jim Thome, same thing. Players who played when they were the Indians will always be the Indians, and they should be. And since the name change, like Jose Ramirez is kind of a gray area because he was an Indian for a while, but he'll go into our Hall of Fame and Baseball Hall of Fame as a Guardian when his career is done. So I think they still embrace the history. I know it's hard, especially for longtime fans of the team. Gosh, I go back to 1991 with the Kinston, North Carolina was their A-ball team, the Kinston Indians. Had Chief Wahoo on the uniform, all that kind of stuff. It was odd when they made the change, for sure. But that's where we're at, and so you kind of embrace it. But I think we still see almost more on the road. Still a lot of Indians gear. I don't know if it's 50-50 or what the percentage is, but it's still out there, and hopefully always will be because it's a great part of their history.
Mino, you mentioned player development. Talk about, I guess, maybe the next wave of Cleveland players.
Well,
next couple of years, let's say, not necessarily this year, but
well, I think someone to keep an eye on this year. A couple of names. They have a middle infielder named Angel Hanau, who's in their top 100 prospects for what that's worth. But another good young middle infielder, which they seem to crank out a lot of them. They're excited about him. Pitching-wise, Daniel Espino, who's a former #1 draft choice, had been their top prospect for several years. Major injuries, hadn't thrown a pitch, wasn't able to throw a pitch for, I think, 2.5 years. Came back last summer, and at the end of the year, pitched to Columbus, got back on the mound, and then in the Arizona Fall League was hitting 100 again with the heart stuff. They're really high on him. Look for him if he can stay healthy and out of harm's way. He's going to get a real opportunity, I think, this spring to make the club. It might be out of the bullpen and not in the rotation, but they're going to try and figure out the best spot for him and give him a real chance because they've loved the kid, they've loved the talent. He just hasn't been healthy, and now he is, and it could happen fast for him.
last year when we did this show in the winter, you, I think, did a really good job picking this next question. I asked you, give me a dark horse. Not AL Central, but a dark horse in Major League Baseball. And you said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to say the Reds are going to the postseason. And you were on that. Do you have a dark horse, whether it's Cincinnati or somebody else anymore?
They didn't make it, though.
They made it, lost in the wild card round.
That's right. I'm sorry. But if Tito heard that, my phone will be blowing up.
Our phone is blowing up.
I know they were struggling down the stretch and then got in there. Because, so let's see.
Got
this
swept
year.
by LA in the first round of the wild card.
Dark horse this year.
It can be AL or NL. Maybe based on some, you can't say probably Seattle anymore after their run.
I'm trying to think of a team, like, I want to say Giants, but I don't know if that's a dark horse.
They've been off the radar long enough, though, for making it, I would say.
I think the Giants, they've made some nice moves in the winter, and they might be ready to make a little noise. And they have an intriguing manager. I think first time where a major league team hired a manager directly from the college ranks.
What's going to be his toughest transition, knowing what you know about a manager's job?
I think the first time a veteran tests him in terms of, like, if he makes a decision and a veteran says, well, you know, the guy with major league experience wouldn't have done that, which may or may not happen, but if it does, how he handles that. I think that'll be the toughest key, because I think it sounds like he's got a real good feel for some of the differences in the game at the major league level as opposed to the college level. So I think he'll be fine, but if a veteran player tests him, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
When we're in a World Baseball Classic year like we are.
Are you writing down Giants, by the way, for next year?
All right.
I completely forgot about the Reds, but it makes sense.
Giants in 2026. Got you down.
Okay.
When we're in a World Baseball Classic schedule like this, how do you plan for this? If you're all the Major League Baseball teams, you're losing some to playing in the World Baseball Classic, some are staying back in spring training. How does this get broken up?
You know, it's hard because the last time there was a bracket in Arizona, so like Cade Smith pitched for Team Canada, and Bo Naylor was on Team Canada then. They would just join that team for the game days, but they would do their workouts with us as normal, and then shoot downtown to the big league ballpark where they would play the games. There's nothing in Arizona this year, so it'll be a little bit different. They'll have to be away from the club. I think it's Houston and Miami are two of the spots. So you do the best you can. You hope that, especially position players, get their work in, but again, it goes back to pitching. Teams are so nervous about what's going to happen to a guy who's supposed to be building up a certain way for March 26th, the start of the season, as opposed to March 2nd when the WBC begins. That's a significant amount of time where pitchers normally build up. So obviously the communication between our pitching coaches and the pitching coaches for whatever team a pitcher might be on is key, but it's hard. So we'll see what happens.
Anybody else have any questions? I don't have anything else. Got a question over here?
Is it true they signed Tim
Tim Anderson.
Is it true they signed Tim Anderson today? Wouldn't that be something if they had the introductory press conference tomorrow morning with Jose Ramirez? Does everyone pick it up on that? Okay. That's a good one. They did not. I think he might be finished. I don't know if anybody signed him heading into this year, so we'll see what happens. Hasn't been the same since that night, for sure.
Tom Hamilton honor. You got the Ford Frick Award.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll let you maybe spend some time talking about that. I mean, you've had the seat next to him for so many years now.
Well-deserved. The weekend in Cooperstown was awesome. Was able to go and just a tremendous weekend. I thought the reaction, the players are honored and inducted in a ceremony that's outside. As many fans as can fit in a field go, but the broadcasters wing, the Ford Frick Award, and the writers wing, they were in an opera house outside of Cooperstown by about 15 minutes, sat maybe 500, 750, and there was an upper tier to it. And when they introduced Tom to come out and give his speech, it sounded like a game, like that. Somehow all these fans from Cleveland and the area got in and were hooting and hollering, and to the point where Rob Manfred was there, and he's like, boy, we haven't had this before at this particular event. But I think it's just a tribute to Tom's popularity and what he means to the fans. It just was a great weekend, and I think the beauty of it is the players have to wait 5 years after they retire, managers the same thing. Broadcasters can be in the Hall of Fame and keep going, so you get to listen to a Hall of Fame broadcaster this summer, and hopefully for many years to come, because he's still feeling great and enjoying the heck out of it. So hopefully he keeps going, and what a treat for our fans.
You mentioned when you go, you mentioned the first spring training game when everything gets rolling, pitchers and catchers reporting, kind of, I guess, wet our whistle for the opening of the season. It's a West Coast start again, right?
Yeah, late night, if you don't mind staying up till, I think it's a 10:10 first pitch from Seattle.
And the earliest MLB start time on the calendar, right?
Probably. Yeah. It seems like it gets earlier by a day each year, but I still... Does anyone else struggle with a team that opens at night? It's opening day, right? It's supposed to be opening day. Yeah, but... I mean, just because they're in Seattle doesn't mean they can't have a day game. It's supposed to be opening day. They don't listen to us, though. But so it's odd. We've opened there before, quite a few times, actually, and it's always a 10 after 7 their time, but 10:10 back here. And it's just odd because you wait around all day. Normally, like when we come home, we play the Cubs on April the 3rd, and it's a day game, the way it's supposed to be. And I don't know. It's odd to me that they play night games on opening day, but I guess I'm sure they have reasons for it.
Well, we certainly appreciate you making time to be with us. We look forward to this on our January calendar every year. And you walked in and we sat down and we're shooting the breeze before we got on the air, and he said there was a lot more people here than in Finland. So thanks to everybody that came.
Don't tell anyone in Finley that.
You're fine. Nobody from Finley. There was more pumping our crowd up than anything else. But we want to thank you for making the trip and being on air with us, and looking forward to hearing you again back on the call for 162 of them this season.
Always fun being here, and honestly, sometimes the winter can drag because there's no games, but this gets you going again, the events like this, and it's great to see everybody and enjoy the season. It should be a good one.
Yeah. And thanks to you guys all for coming out here tonight, and anybody listening at home as well, or however you tuned in tonight. Our Night with Jim Rosenhaus has been brought to you by Brian Ford, JJ Wins, Jacobs Meats, and Darrow Cherky Ford. Oh, I got to thank Bob Doster. Yes, I do. Give Bob a round of applause by putting the sound together for us here tonight so you guys could hear in the room. And I promised him I'd get him out of here at 9 because he turns into a pumpkin at 9 o'clock, evidently. More rock on the way. Coming up now here on B-Rock.